Aujourd'hui, je vais parler de... apparently there's somewhat of a consensus again on what the new seven wonders of the world is these days. You know, via internet polls or whatever. So I figured I gotta see where my family unit would want to go to. Is it all seven? Is it 0 out of 7? Because we want to avoid tourist traps? I know, this is supposed to be the Mr. Fluffy series, but honestly, he's just here to look pretty and he knows it. He's such a good little boy. Hey, XenPuck here. So first of all, there's a list of the new 7 wonders of the world now. What happened to the ancient 7 wonders of the world? Does anyone still care about those? I mean, I love history, so I care. But it's harder to care, other than in a sense of history because, well, you can't visit all but one of those original 7 anymore. So yeah, time to move on. Let's go with the 7 wonders of the world that we can still visit. See link below for the list, right? I'll link something. I'm actually quite happy with the list. Only 1 out of the 7 of the original ancient 7 still standing, and that's the classic, pyramid. There's only one that's super, well, relatively new, and that's the Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio. For once, I think the internet has done a pretty good job, right? We got 3 in Asia, 3 in the Americas, and 1 in Europe. Very balanced group. Okay? So unlike my normal travel criteria of food and attractions, I'm just going to break it down to groups based on increasingly likelihood of Wifey and I and Mr. Fluffy actually making the trip out there, right? And of course, the why of it. You'll see a real easy trend as to the why part soon enough. Comment, like, and sub if you've been to those places or would like to go, or not. I mean, I guess you be you, do whatever you want. Anyway, on with the list. So group number 1, wonders that I most likely won't visit anytime soon. That would be the Taj Mahal in India and the Pyramid at Giza in Egypt, right? Both of these, attractions, self-explanatory. I mean, if you haven't heard of the Taj Mahal or the Great Pyramid, I mean, maybe stop living under a rock, I guess. And the reason is, well, pretty simple. Perceived safety. Okay, that's really all there is to it. Not for me, of course, all for my wifey. I don't think her family would be comfortable with her visiting either India or Egypt. That's quite a shame, because personally I would love to go see the pyramids, right? Not just the pyramids, but also the Sphinx. I think they're in the same-ish area. I mean, the sheer magnitude of it just seems absolutely astounding to me, right? But I get it. Egypt is not particularly stable politically and seems to be still rather misogynistic, or at least that's the public portrayal of which, right? I can't change a macro-level perception of a country, and frankly, until that changes, I'm pretty much SOL on this trip, right? And this type of changes probably would take years, if not decades. Same type of thing for the Taj Mahal, right? Except that I know even less about the Taj Mahal. For me, India is actually quite similar in appeal as China, except that, I'm not Indian, but Chinese in origin, so I have less of an affiliation to visit India, right? Also, unlike the attractions at Giza, I actually feel like there's other parts of India that I would prefer to visit that's totally in a different geographical location, right? So my attention is already split within this rather large country. But if still, the main issue is if wifey doesn't feel safe walking around by herself, this is going to be a hard no, because I wouldn't want to limit her feeling of agency, right? Because if we go there, I don't want her to be like, I can only go out with you. That's weird. Though at the end of the day, I'll add for both of these sites, maybe it's possible to do maybe a group tour. Usually I hate those because I don't like other people dictating to me how I spend my time. But if safety is a concern, larger groups and a very tight itinerary may be a larger boon than I previously would have considered, right? And I know there are some very specific historical tours in Egypt. Not sure about the Indian side of things, but anyway. This is basically my sliver of hope if I ever want to see the Great Pyramids, at least. Here. Group number 2. Wonders that are a maybe to visit. Petra in Jordan and Christ the Redeemer. So Petra's the city carved into the mountains that I'm pretty sure was partly the backdrop of the 3rd Indiana Jones movie, and Christ the Redeemer is that newest addition to the list by being a super dope giant statue overlooking Rio, right? That apparently also attracts lots of lightning bolts. I mean, just imagine that. If somebody was able to be there and see, or maybe take a picture of the statue of Christ being hit by a lightning bolt, I'm pretty sure if I saw that, I'd become religiously Christian immediately. Okay? If that's not a sign, I'm not sure what is, right? So hey, guess why I'm not sure we'll make it there. It's safety again, but there is a bit of a twist. Technically, she's already been to Brazil, back in the days to visit a friend, I believe. So she must think that it's safe-ish, right? At least if we have a local guide, right? The problem is twofold. One, I'm not sure if she still has her local guide, especially I'm not sure whether he or she is in Rio. And two, it's possible she's already seen Christ the Redeemer, which would drop visiting that city to the bottom of the list. I mean, if that is the case, I would whine a bit because I haven't seen it. Maybe that'll help our cause. Could also hurt. Who knows? As for Petra, I mostly think it's pretty dope to have a cityscape carved into a mountain, right? And also, The Last Crusade was the greatest Indiana Jones movie. I don't think I'm the only one that thinks that, right? But it is in Jordan, and frankly, I'm not sure if wifey's not particularly comfortable with Egypt, Jordan probably is in the same scale, right? But we know less about it. Now, again, I don't have a problem going to the Middle East by myself, but I can't think of a great justification to go vacation alone. Well, what? Wifey just stays home? That seems like a real a-hole move. So, I'm gonna have to miss it. It's okay, because I consider it a glorified movie fest, so be it. Now, I know it's not just that. Don't yell at me, internet. Thanks. And final group, wonders that I definitely will make it to, hopefully relatively soon, as in the next 5 years, right? Now, top of mind, Great Wall of China. This is a no-brainer. Obviously, I've seen this one a bunch of times already. I would love to introduce wifey to it, since this is in the land that I'm from, right? Mr. Fluffy, though, we're definitely going to leave you in America, because, you know, what if Chinese people want to eat you because you're so fat and fluffy? I mean, other Chinese people, not me. You're my friend, right? But, you know, there's another billion Chinese people. Who can trust those people, right? Next on the list, Chichen Itza and Machu Picchu, which is Mexico and Peru, respectively. Both very cool looking, ancient, like, Mesoamerican civilization type of places, right? I somehow think that the location where they're at do have a relatively tamer reputation than compared to the Middle East, and that's why I think wifey would be okay going there. I don't really have too much to add to these, except that I love visiting places for history, much more so than nature. So please, relatively shorter flights from here also helps, right? And lastly, the Colosseum in Italy. Oh man. Surprisingly, only 1 out of 7 in Europe. Oh my god. Now, I've never been anywhere in Italy yet, so I feel like this might be fighting the Great Wall in terms of which is one of the first wonders we'd make it to together, right, as a family unit. Oh, Isaac, poor little guy. Mr. Fluffy wants to leave. No. Now, I love military history out of all the historical subgenres, so obviously that makes Roman history a big part of my childhood readings, right? And the Colosseum figures prominently in those tales of warriors and emperors. Plus, I mean, frankly, Swords and Sandals movies of the Roman variety is just par for the course in Western cinemas, right? So I would love to see this place in person. I'm actually super curious as to how I would feel upon seeing it, mainly because I feel like, you know, I don't know whether I would think it's bigger or smaller than I imagine, right? Like, whenever I've met a celebrity on the streets of usually New York City, my first impressions has always been, oh, they're shorter than I expected. Would I feel the same about, like, an ancient building? Anyway, I actually can't believe that I've only covered 1 out of the 7 wonders this far into my life, man. Actually, now that I think about it, my wifey might have seen 1 more than me, right? Because she's been to Brazil and Italy, so she might have seen 2. Oh my god, and we're still not in the majority, either of us, right? Now, even if I ignore India, Egypt, and Jordan, oh, poor little guy, I'm sorry. We would still need to visit 2 to 3 more to hit the majority of 7, right? I know we can do it, but until we do so, we can't really call ourselves jet setters now, can we? After all, we're not stupid kids who go on trips just for pictures on Instagram. We're old fogies with a cat who travel to feel inherently superior to our peers. Oh boy, now I'm just being an a-hole, aren't I? It happens. Hope we're still friends. Cheers. A la prochaine. Poor little guy.